Nene Leakes and Dennis Rodman should have beef with Hercules. Today, we're talking about antiheroes. Welcome back to Read Her Like a Book, where we read and then we read. Here, I connect what we've always seen in books to what we see in media today to encourage more people to think critically about the media we're consuming. New episodes drop every Thursday. Hey y'all, happy Thursday, happy New Year. I hope everyone is sticking to their New Year's resolutions. I want to share a little anecdote because I am sticking to mine. My word this year is strict, and one of those things is speaking up whenever I'm unhappy or whenever I'm suffering. And I actually had a situation a few weeks ago where I was a little unhappy with a circumstance I was in, and I spoke up about it. And I'm really proud of myself because in a situation like this, I would have typically just suppressed it and suffered it. But because I'm being strict, I rose a hand and say, hey, I didn't like that. And you know what happened? My circumstance changed. So I'm super proud of myself, and I hope you guys are sticking to your New Year's resolutions. Okay, let's get into it. Today I'm talking about antiheroes. So, what is an antihero? An antihero is a character who lacks traditional heroic qualities, but we still root for them anyway. An antihero isn't a character who does the wrong thing, they're someone who doesn't look right doing the right thing. And society is the one who determines those traditional heroic qualities. They make the checklist and they decide who's a hero and who's not. And the difference between a hero and an anti-hero? Framing. So, in analyzing antiheroes, we first need to understand what makes a hero, and the perfect case study is Hercules. I always like to use children's movies when breaking down really tough topics because they do a great job of that. And there's no subtlety with children's movies, it's very much in your face what the theme, what the message, what the overall takeaway is. So, when we look at Hercules before he becomes a hero, he has a small frame, he's scrawny, he's not conventionally attractive, he doesn't have those strong, striking features that we see typically in like a Superman. He's not very successful, he's clumsy, but still has a really good heart. And then he turns into a hero, and we use the perfect song, Zero to Hero, to explain this transformation from an anti hero, a character that lacks traditional heroic qualities, to a true hero. And suddenly, throughout this song, Zero to Hero, he transforms into this very muscular. He has those strong features, strong nose, strong chin. He's conventionally handsome. The girls are falling all over him. He's very successful. He has a great smile, great teeth. Everyone loves him. And we see him turn into a hero, even though he has those same traits he did when he was still a scrawny little thing. He just looks better doing it. This movie teaches kids that goodness and having a good heart isn't enough. You need to look the part too. So now that we know what a hero is, let's contrast with an anti-hero. It's someone who does all the right things but doesn't look like the right part. And the perfect case study is Dennis Rodman. So Dennis Rodman, he's a basketball legend. He was a great defender. I watched the Bulls documentary on Netflix, and he was a really great athlete. He was a great teammate. He was a nice person. He had lockdown defense. But he didn't look like a traditional hero, the traditional basketball player. He dyed his hair, he painted his nails, he dressed very eccentrically, he was very eclectic. And this did not align with what we saw with typical traditional basketball legends and stars. He did whatever he wanted. So, because he didn't fit the traditional hero mold, he got kind of the villain edit and the anti hero framing. And a lot of his legacy is overshadowed by the fact that he painted his nails, he partied, he dated a pop star, as opposed to focusing on what a great basketball star he was. And when you compare Dennis Rodman and Hercules on paper, they're both heroes. But because Dennis Rodman didn't look a certain way, he got the anti hero edit. Dennis Rodman did everything he was supposed to do except be palatable. His refusal to conform overshadowed his excellence. That's not failure, y'all. That's framing. Okay, let's get into the pages. The Housemaid is a perfect example of an anti hero because it flips everything we think we know about heroes on its head. I want a disclaimer. I'm going to have spoilers because I have to just spoil the book in order to really drive my point home. So please skip ahead if you do not want spoilers. I'll insert a time to skip to. Skip to 6:56. So The Housemaid is about a couple who hires a live-in maid to do all their cleaning. So we have a couple, Andrew. He is conventionally attractive. He has a good body, great teeth, great smile. He's super nice. He's wealthy. He's successful. And then we have his wife, Nina. Nina is not super cute. She's quote unquote let herself go. She's gained a whole bunch of weight. She has dyed blonde hair, but her natural hair is brown. She's let her roots grow out like 2 or 3 inches. She's always eating a lot. She's also very irrational and she can be quite cruel to Millie, the housemaid. And so when we meet this couple, we're like, all right, Andrew's cool. Andrew's my guy. And Nina is the crazy person. And Millie, she's the housemaid just thrown into this. So we just feel sorry for her. And so as the book continues, Millie, the housemaid, and Andrew start having a little love affair. And even though we're like, dog, Millie, you messing with a married man, we root for them because Nina, the wife, is just acting crazy. So we're like, girl, can you just leave? And so Nina ends up leaving, and we learn that Andrew, instead of being the sweet, kind husband, is actually incredibly abusive. What he does is in his beautiful house, he has an attic room and he locks people in from the outside, and he'll make these women sit in the room for hours and hours and days. And so he did that to Nina, and we learned Nina's backstory that he abused her in that way, and now he's doing it to Millie. So we are thrown for a loop because we thought Andrew was the hero. We thought he was the good guy. He was attractive, he's successful, and we thought Nina, the wife, was just this crazy, mean witch. So when we learn that Andrew is the bad guy, it's like, wait a minute! Wait a minute! And the reason this book throws you for a loop is because the plot twist is predicated on the reader assuming that Andrew, because he looks good, he's the hero, and that Nina, because she doesn't look good and can be kind of mean, is the abuser, is the villain. So, towards the end of this book, whenever Nina is kicked out of the house, she ends up coming back to save Millie and ends up taking the fall because something really bad happens to Andrew. Nina, even though she doesn't look the part, ultimately ends up being the hero because she saves the day. And one of the main takeaways in this book is that the hero isn't someone who only looks good, it's someone who does good too. And now let's get into our final case study. Miss Nene Leakes, after many, many years, she is back on Bravo for the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. I love Nene, but she is the perfect example of being an anti-hero and essentially getting the villain edit. So when we look at female heroes, they're typically women who are meek and mild. They put their family and their community first. They never complain, they never yell, and they're always seen as super sweet, super simpering. Perfect example is the grandma who makes cookies for everybody, or the nurse who doesn't take breaks and works every single holiday. That's the female shero, okay? Nene Leakes kind of takes that and flips it on its head. Nene Leakes is not meek and mild. She's loud, she's bold, she's unapologetic. She will absolutely cuss you out. But Nene has done a lot of traditional heroic things that we would consider as a hero. So back in the day, whenever Real Housewives of Atlanta, many, many years ago, was just concepts of a plan, she is the one who reached out to several people, Kim Zolciak and Sheree Whitfield, and said, hey, I have a show I think you guys should join. And she also vouched for these women. And by making these phone calls, she essentially put these women on a platform to be accepted into the show and created generational wealth. I mean, Kim Zolciak's daughters now have platforms, and Sheree's people, I mean, they seem to be good over there too. So that's a situation where she was essentially being a hero by putting on her friends and creating wealth. And another good example is while she was on the show, she platformed a charity, Saving Our Daughters, which was a domestic violence charity supporting survivors of domestic violence, whether that be through housing, through courses, clothing, attire, all those things. That to me is a hero. Platforming others like Sheree and Kim to boost their own families' generational wealth, and then platforming a really important cause, Saving Our Daughters. Two very heroic qualities. Because Nene didn't look a certain way, because she wasn't meek and mild, and because she didn't take any nonsense, she gets the anti hero villain edit as opposed to the heroic edit that she should get. And I personally see her as one of my heroes because we saw her chase her dreams after 40. And everyone thinks that like you can't start over after 20. So it was so refreshing to see a woman in her 40s go from being an intern at a news station to a series regular on a network television show. I have one closing PSA for this episode. What's the difference between an anti-hero and a hero? Whoever's making the checklist. That's all for episode 3 of Read Her Like a Book. Next week, we'll be reading Another Woman the Media Misunderstood. Until then, I'll see you on the next page. Bye.